Let's jump right in. So I want to set a little bit of a ground-based foundation for what we're talking about, and then we're going to get into lots of meat. As you can see, I think you can see I got 62 slides to share today, and we have an hour. So we're going to move a little quick. Again, there will be a recording afterwards, so if you want to come back and watch anything, but we're going to cover a lot of ground today. So there's an AI hype cycle going on right now, and I want to compare that to reality and give you a little bit of context. It has done a great job in the past. This is a generic they put out about the hype cycles that go on. And right now we're in the middle of the one called where there's a fevered amount of, you can actually tell there's a hype cycle going on because there's billions of dollars being poured into startup ventures as the money chases what could be the next big thing. And it's going to go up until it reaches a peak of inflated expectations. And then there will be a trough of disappointment as everybody says AI is overblown and it's going to go away. Haven't heard too much of that lately, but little bits and pieces of Apple just put out a paper talking about how AI will never be able to reason. And in fact, there were many flaws with that paper, and you can ask me about a Q&A if you want. Happy to cover that. But then it does settle in with all hype cycles, as in, I remember P2P in the early 2000s. P2P was going to take over everything. Websites are going to go away. Social media, about 15 years ago, social media was going to replace websites and everything was going to go away. And then the metaverse, we were all going to wear goggles, and the world was going to be converted into goggle-wearing zombies, and that was going to take over everything. All of these technologies have clearly settled into a reality where they have found an application, a usefulness, et cetera, but they haven't radically changed all of society. With that said, AI, I does think have the opportunity to be a very transformational change, but it's going to take a little bit more time and it's going to be more complex than people think. So the CEO of Fiverr put out one of the hype cycle emails that went viral, and he talked about, hey, I've always believed in being paid. Here's the unpleasant truth. AI is coming for your job. It's coming for my job too. And after the hardcore wake-up call over here, he went into some very practical advice, which I think is more the reality. Everybody in the company should be studying and researching, getting more knowledgeable. Time is very important. And if you're doing something that you did in 2004 without AI system, you're doing it wrong. So on and on and on. Not going to cover this whole email, but great topics and slightly off topic from today's thing. But what we do have is there is a reality that AI is here to stay. It's going to be part of our workplace. And whether this is a straight line chart going up, it's reasonably, I think this is a reasonable chart that represents that AI is going to grow and become more and more important in the workplace and on your websites and in the marketing efforts of everything that we do day to day. So we need to be paying attention to it. One of the moments of panic that I had, panic and anxiety, was reading that AI was writing 30% of all the code at Microsoft, which was a little frightening until I realized that a lot of the code that they were spitting out wasn't all that good, certainly wasn't going to be ready for prime time, and all of it needed to be reviewed by experts. And it gave me the comfort, probably after a month or two of semi-panic, that we're going to need experts for a long time to come. And yes, you can augment and speed up and get better at things, but as I've told my employees here at Northwoods, we are moving from an age where everybody is building houses with hand saws and hand tools, where we've been handed power tools and we can do everything 3 times, 10 times faster than we could before. But we have to be good, get good at knowing which tool to apply, when and where, and how to master these tools. So it's kind of how I'm looking at it. Now let's hone in a little bit closer to today's topic. Website traffic. Is our GPTs and large language models, LLMs, are they going to be taking over all of our traffic and nobody's going to come to our website anymore? Well, in fact, if you look at one of our major clients, you can see that over the past 30 days, their traffic is down about 20%. They're actually cyclical, so there's a nature here. But if you look at over year to year, they're down about 12%. But in one of the charts I don't have over here is that their conversions are up. So something interesting is happening, that traffic is down, but conversions, number of people that are actually engaging with them, which might suggest that rather than coming to the website to get information, they're getting that information from the GPT ahead of time, and that they are then better qualified, better customers, more informed. And when they come there, they're more likely to get a qualified person who's choosing you specifically because the large language model has made the recommendation. Yet, one of the alarming things that people have said is that these GPTs are going to be the new place where referrals are coming from. And we don't see that. So if you see 51 users out of, I don't know what over here, 114,000, same customer, 51 of them came from or Gemini, and there was nothing from any of the other ones. So we're not getting a direct referral over there, but somehow or other they're finding out about us and still coming to the website. So My title of this slide is Search is Evolving. I don't think there's a doom and gloom scenario where all your traffic's going to go away. It might come down, and there might be very good and valid and encouraging reasons why traffic might decrease, where the zero-click behavior, people are not leaving the search bot, or Google's going to evolve in the same direction, that they're doing their research offsite first. And it suggests to us then that we need to supply those large language models with really good content so that we get into the mix. And at some point in time, people are going to make a decision to buy something. And when they do, are engaged in the service, they can't get that service. They can't buy a pizza on ChatGPT, not yet. They still can't even buy it on Google. Google doesn't sell pizzas as far as I know, but they can send it to Domino's. And if Domino's has the best link juice, they're going to get that. They're going to get the traffic. All right. So marketing impacts. So here's a little bit of stats from the web. In 2024, chat-like assistants captured about 6% of the overall search market. These are best guesses. They think this might reach 7% in 2024, where people are searching using the ChatGPT. I personally, and the people I know, use ChatGPT to ask questions that we would have asked Google before, but they're questions that wouldn't have led necessarily to a website visit, like what time is Walgreens open? What was the score of the Brewer game last night? I don't need to go to walgreens.com and figure out their interface to figure out things. It's not a useful engagement for me at Walgreens. I already know they're there. I already know the Brewers played, but I can get that information on ChatGPT. And so these zero-click things aren't necessarily the end of the world. So 50% of Google searches now yield no clicks because of some conservative behavior. So again, it's evolving. So if we looked at 3% of websites now receive some traffic, et cetera. However, it's a fraction of the total monthly traffic, just a fraction. And according to all this, the same survey, 71% said they have used AI for searching online. So 75% use it daily. The word searching is a little vague. I use ChatGPT for all sorts of different functions. Researching and getting questions, quick answers to questions is something that's among them. All right. So before we get into the full meat of the website part of this, I'm going to talk about, and this is all relevant, et cetera. What are the stages of adoption inside the world? And all of us are currently in this experimentation and proof of concept phase. We're learning how to use prompts. We're comparing all the different LLMs. We're experimenting with vibe programming. The next stage that all of us are going to need to get to, some sooner than later, is prompt engineering. This is the notion where you are learning to build more complex queries, have more complex interactions, and realizing that when you're interacting with ChatGPT, and I'm just going to use that generically as in place of all of them, when you're interacting with chat, it is like talking to an expert. However, as with all experts, you got to give it context. You have to help it understand what you're looking for. You can't just go up to an expert and say, tell me what kind of car to buy. A good expert is going to want to ask you a million questions, and then they can give you good advice. We are not used to doing that in Google. We're not used to having our experience, and everyone on the planet has learned how to talk to Google in order to get the information we want. We have to learn a new way to talk, and that's called prompt engineering. The commoners are going to use it, and the advanced AI practitioners are going to use this. We're also going to go into a phase where we're testing different agents. Many people don't realize they're using agents when they are. An agent is something that sits on top of an LLM and kind of gives frankly, what an agent does is builds a master prompt and feeds the data either through a master prompt or through an API directly to that in order to get the information you want. So this is what we're going to get good at next. Many of us, perhaps some using some vibe coding, are getting better at agent creation and building collections of agents that do different things for us. And this is where the realm of programmers and experts is going to persist and remain. This is not going away. So the art of creating an agent quickly, I'm going to show you a couple. We're going to talk about chatbots and show you how agents are, a chatbot is essentially an agent, how those are created. And if you want them to be better than mediocre, you're going to need experts and programmers or people that can think analytically and linear thinking to get this done. The days of experimentation and putting these quick things together and saying, look what I did, boss, are going to end soon. And everyone's going to realize that in order to get good at this. Finally, the evolution of AI is going to go where agents are talking to agents. We're not there yet. It's happening in the research labs and probably in Microsoft and Google. And behind the scenes, there's a lot of experimentation with getting these. There's even an A2A protocol language that has been developed in cooperation amongst all these different larger organizations to set a baseline in a very early version. I'm sure that's going to evolve. So my predictions are that most of us are going to be spending this year experimenting and building proof of concepts and doing a little bit of vibe programming, whipping stuff together, showing our bosses. Next year, we're going to get better at prompt engineering. Another more year, and we're going to start to have a collection of agents that we rely on day to day to get our work done. But I think it's going to be more than a few years where we actually see these agents all talking to each other on a consistent basis, and that becomes a dominant theme in society. So hopefully this gives you a little perspective on where things are going, how this is impacting the web, what you need to worry about, what you don't need to worry about, and how we're going to go there. All right. So question, do you still need a website? We've got all these tools out there. Do we still need a website? And the answer is, of course, they're more important than ever. Probably the most fundamental reason why you still need a website is because AIs need to be fed. They do not have their content generated in a vacuum. The LLMs are spidering the web. They're ingesting everything that is out there and feeding it into their algorithms, their magic that happens under the hood. That data that goes in there is what they live on. One of the concerns, and I read a New York Times piece on this about a year ago, was will Wikipedia go out of business now that you can get all your answers from AIs? And the paradox and the irony is that the LLMs that can answer Wikipedia type questions get their knowledge from Wikipedia. If Wikipedia starts to go away, that authority is going to atrophy the AI's ability to get good information. So one hand feeds the other, and they each need each other. There's a symbiosis here between web content and LLMs. They can't live without each other. And that balance is going to ebb and flow, and there's going to be lawsuits and lots of opinions shared. But the base fact is AIs need to be fed. There's data. So you then, on your website, need to improve your metadata, your schema, defining and describing in more programmatic ways what it is you have on the sites, improving your taxonomy, how you tag, classify, organize stuff, because all of that makes better food, not just for the AIs. If you do this well, we've been preaching this for years, makes a better user experience. We also need websites are more important for getting found, SEO, and the new evolving verb of generative engine optimization, GEO, where you're actually creating content more specific for search for LLMs. So, and GEO is going to be looking at the schema, going to be reading your tech and making sense of the stuff that you have on your site. So if your site is still disorganized and has a lot of missing data, incomplete data, or contradictory, disorganized data, all of that is going to, as it does today, affects your SEO. That will continue to affect the ability for LLMs to do it. We also need websites to maintain our brand control and our message, core message. These are key marketing things. And we have to remember, as I mentioned before, that zero-click research done on LLMs still eventually results in traffic. It might not come, you might be further down the funnel by the time somebody reaches your website, but if they are able to do good research and your name is mentioned, as the LLMs are doing more and more. Perplexity does a really good job of mentioning links. Some of the other LLMs, not so much, but that's gonna change. We also need websites for customer service support chats and for doing filtered searches. So if somebody qualifies to find out you offer the product or service, very much so they're going to want to get onto your site and finish their research and come to a conclusion. What can you do then on your website? You can add AI features to improve the ability for users to find useful content and to convert. So the same message we've been preaching for years, AI features can help continue to improve the UX. So what are the things? Here's 5 things we're going to talk about, give you lots of examples, show you some screenshots, starting with AI chatbots. So an AI chatbot is an LLM, natural language processor that sits on top, an agent that sits on top of your website and processes the query, sends it off to the LLM, the knowledge base, CMS, the place where the content is stored. Very often, when you work with a chatbot, you are feeding it a isolated, insulated version of your content. You're telling it spider our website, but keep this segregated. You give the LLM permission to share it with the rest of the world, usually not, and say, take our content, take our documents, take our resources, take our PDFs, take the databases that you can find, and spider them, index them, and learn about them. And then use your LLM magic to be able to answer queries. The better the LLM, the better the answer it's going to get back. there's a little part that's missing in here because this is a very high level graph, but there's also a master prompt or a system prompt that all chatbots have behind the scenes, which is part of the agent, which takes anybody can write these, but you need to think like a programmer. What's a reasonable set of instructions for how you want this chatbot to interact with your content? What are the rules? What are the safety constraints? What are the vulgarities not allowed? The racism's not allowed? All of these things need to be programmed into that system prompt to tell what the rules of engagement are. And also, you give it instructions of how you want the content to come back under various circumstances. So the system prompts for chatbots are often fairly large, fairly complex, a lot of information. This last part is a data store. Chatbots will have some information, hopefully can keep some history, some context for at least a little while, and gather analytics as to what kind of questions are being asked, what kind of answers are being given, so that you can study this and improve your system prompt and your LLM tuning, the API tuning, so that just does a better job. Here's a structure of the parts and pieces of a good, adding a little personalization of the person you're chatting with, or people sometimes have, we worked with the Wisconsin Dells, they have Tubi is their avatar persona. Put your company name up over there, give some indication as to how this thing is going to work. I've seen some places where there's actually a disclaimer in here. Chatbots may not give you correct information, blah, blah, blah. So I've seen this space up in the top used for legal stuff, and then being able to answer the questions. Once the question comes back, being able to offer quick response buttons so that people don't have to answer back. So if you know what's going on, these are very, very helpful. Again, that takes a little bit of system prompt programming to be able to generate all those and set the context for when those should come up. Offering the ability to rate a response, which is good, bad, was good analytics. And here's where you type. We can also have the option to talk to a real person, give a little like emoji, attach documents, et cetera. So these are the structures of some of the things that go into a good. So these have existed for a while. It's evolved. What has gotten better fundamentally now is that the better, newer chatbots are able to use LLM, natural language processing, to go in and do far more intelligent answers to questions using everything that we've come to like and love about ChatGPT. Two types of different ones. We have customer service ones that take off the load. I'm looking to book an appointment. What do you want? Which day? January 10th. Okay, great. Here's some times. Great chatbot. And we also have interaction chatbots where we can check orders, check shipping status, produce simple quotes. These are more intelligent, require a heck of a lot more thinking and programming to be able to make them behave well inside there. Here's a chatbot on Peloton. Oh, another thing that I want to mention is that the chatbots, typically the convention is that they live down over here in a corner and you can click on them. Some people feature them more prominently. I'll show you another example in a second here. But everybody that has a chatbot also has lots and lots of other ways of interacting and answering questions and getting to the content or information you might be looking on the main part of the website before the actual chatbot experience comes into play. That's a dominant theme. Now, if you're booking on United Airlines and you just want to find out your flight status, you're looking for that chatbot immediately, even though they do have a button right on their main page. But here, Peloton, once you do start chatting, these are the most common questions that people ask, which was interesting. So I'll show you an example of that. Here's one. Again, look at, we're doing tracking, shipping, all of the commonly asked questions. Get help over here, get help over there, get help over here. And then finally get all the way down to, okay, none of these dozens of things that I put in front of you were useful or you're reading too fast. All right, here's a chatbot, which basically does all the same things. And when you start asking questions, like typing in a shipping number, it does the same thing it could have done over here, but whatever. And it also will, very often, in my experience, will provide the same link. Here's a shipping number. You want more information? Click this link, same link that's up here. And so, again, the best practice, I believe, is to continue to do this. You're going to get the dominant amount of traffic into this area of the site, and then your chatbot is going to be able to answer the questions for anything else down below, customer service. So what are some key features? The best AI chatbots out there can use natural language conversations. They can handle more complex questions than they ever could before. What's great about them is that they're instant any time of day. They understand the language. They track your earlier conversations and keep it in context. Again, those are skills that earlier chatbots did not have. The LLM-based ones do. They can connect with internal platforms. So if you have somebody that's authenticated on your website, they've logged in and we know who they are with certainty, then you can actually give them much, much better information by going into your customer relation management or your P system to access data and get real live information, et cetera. So programmers are needed to be able to put all that together. You can, once you know who that person is, and we had a few questions about personalization. You can tailor the responses and recommendations for individual customers. Also, if you're encouraging larger questions on your chatbot, and you are training people maybe with some prompts. I'll show you an example of that in a second. The fact that they're giving you the personal information that we had to infer previously, we had to infer and take a guess as to what are their behavior, what are they looking for. Now, because you can type longer prompts, people often tell you what they're looking for with very specific information. Now you can, with the LLM, you can tailor the response. We can take complex stuff and say, hey, I need to pass you on to a person and pass it off to a person. Gather metrics. The best ones, a good bots will work across your website, your app, your mobile applications. And the best ones, all of them should have some form of data encryption to keep information private using HTTPS or other protocols and keeping the information safe and isolated, et cetera. 90% of all businesses, particularly e-commerce websites, have implemented. So if you say all businesses, that's probably not fair. E-commerce, it's very, very heavy on e-commerce or customer facing like UPS, United Airlines. These are all places where that makes sense. In the mainstream of other websites, chatbots are far, far less prominent. So this, I think, skews heavily because of the amount of traffic. So, but 39% of companies are thinking about doing it, and 71% of enterprise organizations are currently piloting or deploying some sort of conversational AI for customer support. And only, but it's interesting, and I know you have to ask yourself, how often do you use chatbots? Where do you use them? What's frustrating about them, because only 16% of users report regular usage. All right, some steps for building it. What do you have to do? Identify your data sources. Kind of obvious. If you're going to make it effective, it's going to need access to a lot of good information. You're going to want to draft up a set of outputs. Go through and develop the UX, the customer experience, the UX is user experience of think of a bunch of different use cases of how people might interact with the kind of questions they're going to ask, and draw up how you want that behavior to go. You're going to have to hand that off to a programmer at some point in time to be able to build and test that interface is working with all of these different scenarios. Then hand it off to internal employees to ask it a whole bunch of questions and insist that they spend more than 5 minutes on it. Oh, then you have to set up the draft for your system prompt, set up system parameters, filters. I mentioned all that stuff just a moment ago. Then you're going to want to test some different agents. There's a lot of chatbots out there. There's a lot of vibe programmers who can build you a chatbot in 5 minutes and get it up. See, boss, see, look what I did. Yeah, that's really nice. We had a couple people do that, and they were very nice, but it was a long way from prime time. And if you're looking for the novelty and you just want to be playing on the playground, great, get out there and build something. But you're going to want to compare different agents, and you're going to have to work with them for a little bit of time. So this is going to take a little bit of effort. Compare the options that different agents offer. And then we actually had a couple clients about a year ago. So I don't know if this is still relevant because costs are coming down, but you're going to have to calculate what does it cost if this thing is going to ingest all of your content, all of your documents, be able to process all that, and then charge per question or per query, storage and for things. It appears as though costs are coming down quickly and radically. But I know a year ago, a number of our clients that had put chatbots in decided not to because of the cost. So just mentioning that as an aside. So this is a segue into my next slide. Welcome to Bethon. I'm your virtual assistant. Hey, how do I become a member and what are the benefits? Sorry, I didn't understand that. I agree. That's what direct phrases. Try rewording question. Okay. What do people like and dislike about chatbots? We like speed, accuracy, helpfulness. We like it when it provides a link to the things it's mentioning. We appreciate that it has quick answers to very common questions. We also appreciate multilingual support. People don't like fake empathy, robotic personalities, long answers that are overly over here. Thank you, Andrew, for your fast delivery desk. So there's a little bit of a debate about how many pleasantries you need to put into each of your chats, etc. I know we had one of our programmers was working with on a coding issue, something separate, but it's a chat. And it was just being so polite every time it made a mistake and he pointed it out. It would say, oh, you're so smart. I didn't catch that. And at some point in time, he had to give it a prompt saying, stop doing that. Just treat me like I'm an idiot and that you're a playground bully and give me the answers I'm looking for in order so that the chatbot wasn't annoying him. Anyways, an aside, we don't like chatbots don't like it when they can't handle complex questions, which is what AI is purporting to solve. We have no option to defer to a live person, and having to repeat yourself, I know, infuriates me whenever I'm in a chatbot and it forgot something I told it just a minute ago. So again, AI has that element of data storage of history to be able to keep it inside there. And then finally, we come to the avatar-based chatbots, which are a growing rage. And so we're going to listen to this avatar for a second here. Hello, what do you have skills in? Tell me about yourself.
Hello. I'm here to assist you with any inquiries you might have about SidePel and our text-to-speech, TTS, services. How can I help you today?
So the ability to build AI companions who have the same knowledge and you can interact with voice, I think is going to be a growing trend. I also think that there's a lot of to be asked. There's a lot. It's wanting. I don't know that these are ready for prime time. It is an interesting novelty. We did play with one for one of our very large vacation destination clients up in the Door County. We were able to ask it questions like, what's the best cabin for my family when it's snowing out in Fish Creek? If you're from Wisconsin, those are all references to Wisconsin locations. And it came back after a moment and made some recommendations, but as it was kind of reading off the list to me, you couldn't interrupt it. You'd say, oh, no, yeah, the first one sounds good. It wasn't like talking to a human. And the fact that I'd ask it an open-ended question, it gave me a fairly long answer, some other stuff inside there. I wasn't sure this was the best user experience and that it wouldn't be frustrating to some people. But perhaps you have had an experience with a talking which is useful. In realms outside of website marketing, I think there's applications. So I'm not making a broad sweeping generalization, but for website interaction, customer service, talking to a person, etc., I'm not sure these avatars are there yet. Now, my daughter is 12, showed me an avatar on her phone, which alarmed me, where she could actually have a virtual boyfriend. He was a 12-year-old appropriate boyfriend. I made sure of that. But boy, nothing like coming home and having a chat on your phone with somebody who was interested in everything that happened during your day and is just a wonderful best friend. I won't get into that. It's a whole nother issue, but I think these talking avatars and the voice is going to be good. Also, we're going to talk about voice search in a little bit, and I'll mention that in a second. All right, search. And we will, for anybody that's tracking time, et cetera, we're on time here. We're going to go a little bit faster through some of these additional topics because they build off of each other. AI search is an AI chatbot on steroids. So you take a typical search, typical chatbot, and you expand it on out and make it full screen. And you give it all the same, perhaps more information, the ability to access more information. So here's one that we work with Briggs & Stratton, one of our clients, and here is an AI-assisted search, support assistant, they call it, their website, which gives you a bunch of suggestions of things you can do. So you're training the users of this for what to do. And if you ask a question like, what air filters, an air filter for my engine, it's going to ask you, what is your engine model number? So pretty much many of the things they're going to have over here are going to come back down to what is the model number, which is, if you look at the search logs for Briggs & Stratton for the past 20 years, the top searches by far are people looking for model number specific information, finding parts and pieces for the search. So I was able then to, what are the spark plugs for? And I gave it a model number over here. And what it did, which is fairly brilliant, is it took my query and it pulled out, it identified the model number within the query and pulled it out and put it over here in the model number search little thing, which you can't see anymore, but it actually split it off of my query and put it over here in order to segment. That's part of the system prompt that did a little pre-processing. Then it took a little while and it came back and it said, hey, for that particular thing, here's the part number. Here's where you can buy it. A couple different places, some other parts and pieces you might need. And then based on the system prompt that was built, was able to make other suggestions for how to service this thing. So we know that these are other things that typically go along and we want to have good information and contact information on and on. So we're able to give a much larger, more informed response to the query. And so it's basically a chatbot type experience, but built out to full screen with the opportunity to provide a lot more information. And this one actually does shrink all the way up down into a chatbot. Clearly, it's going to be far more useful in context on a screen like this without a whole lot of scrolling. And so I think if you're in an organization that has a big parts database, a very large repository of documents, et cetera, an AI-assisted search could be useful. However, there's some shortcomings over here. And so I did ask a very specific question over here, but if I'd asked a more general question, we're going to be a little bit more constrained unless we build some more exacting system prompts for pulling back documentation or offering expert training videos or other types of content that aren't necessarily parts related. So given that this Briggs experience skews heavily towards part number finding, this is perfectly acceptable, but that context might not be true for you. And so it's going to be very important that this expanded search, where it's going to be more limited in the kind of answers that it's going to bring back. It's not going to bring back what we typically see in a search result without just being another Google, another thing. So it does take me to what is the best way for a user to find, explore your products if you're going to put a search onto your website. In here, for one of our clients, medical, they sell products for hospitals, amongst other things. The ability to go in and discover information is as important as being able to filter. So people come here not necessarily knowing what exactly they want. And so I'm going to show you, just do a little video and I'll come back to this in a second. So here's a little thing where they go click on a product category. Oh, they sell all those different things. Oh, discovering products that they offer, finding out which particular parts and piece they might have, adding a filter to it, wanting the products that work with lock bars. The different types of lock bar indexes, the way that they attach to the different thing is important. Being able to start all over again, clear your filter, go back up, select the category again, and pick a different category, and then pick different product types and be able to filter again. This is one of many, many different ways that websites, there's hundreds of variations of these sorts of filters, but filters allow for discovery. They offer the ability to compare. They have the same things about searching on websites, and I'm adding this to generically both searching and ad. People like speed and accuracy. They also like lots of details. That's something a chatbot experience in a tiny window doesn't offer. So because I want to discover and learn, and I don't want to have to open up a million different windows and a million different tabs when I'm comparing all the different products, I would love the ability to put these products or services side by side and discover and compare them. One of the things they don't like is when all the results are formatted the same, which is our old generic Google thing where it's a title, a description, and a link, a title, description, link. They don't like that. If it's a product, they want a product picture and a product price and a product model number. And the same thing they dislike about chatbots is inaccurate results. So the opportunity here for AI-assisted search is to offer an experience perhaps where this keyword thing on, here's a very, very typical keyword filter on a website with a product database. So this happens to be a document database. This is one of our clients. It suggests you can only type in the keywords. The experience could be modified to offer a bigger text box, similar to what Briggs did, and put something up on the top over here that says, here is, ask me a long question. And by putting this box and making this box really, really big, you're encouraging people, training them and cueing them that they can ask a larger question. And I think that is going to be a better user experience. But I would also make sure that you keep on hand when you design this interface that there's something perhaps on the top or the middle where you have the AI-assisted search, and then you also have the filtered search. So I think the future bodes for now, where there's a hybrid where you have both of these things being offered, the filter, the ability to filter the stuff, and the ability to search large things, because we want to compare. So bringing us to the opportunity, creating a better taxonomy. There's two benefits to creating a better taxonomy. One, this filtering experience will be improved. If you nail the filters that people typically filter by and put them in the order that they typically filter by, you will have a better user experience. So better taxonomy, better ability to filter and find. The second thing is this same taxonomy, if fed well to the LLM, is going to allow the LLM to offer better information when people do things like I did 3 weeks ago when I was looking for a new washing machine. And I said, the heck, if I'm going to go to whirlpool.com and ge.com, I'm going to go to ChatGPT and say, I'm looking at these 5 different brands. I want you to compare a comparison chart that compares 5 cubic meter front loading washers, blah, blah, blah. I gave it a bunch of criteria. Build a chart that puts them side by side, comparing feature by feature, and a price on the bottom. Well, in order for that chatbot to generate that content, it needed a good taxonomy. It needed a good feature. It needed the good metadata, the schema, all that other stuff inside there to be able to do it. Yeah, maybe it might have figured it out on its own, but why take the chance? Why not work and build a better schema, build a better structure inside there? And as I mentioned, also support natural language queries that can feed tailored and structured user responses. Those are the things that we're looking for here. All right, got about 15 minutes left. We've got three more topics. This AI-assisted SEO improvements. How can you use AI to improve your SEO? Well, lots of ways. I'm going to mention some of the top pieces over there and just kind of defer off to a tool here. So being able to do targeted keyword research is the fundamental skill of anybody that practices in the realm of SEO. You want to be able to figure out what words are people looking for. Do you have those words on your website? And what words haven't you thought of that people are searching for, and phrases and long tail phrases that people are searching for. So being able to do that research has been sped and improved by the large language models and the ability to ask really detailed questions. You can also now, with some of the tools out there, run simulations of the effectiveness of changing your keyword strategies. It can take a best guess and use data that it has at its hand to run a simulation. That wasn't possible before. And AI is bringing forward things that used to be impossible are now just hard, and things that are hard are getting far easier than they used to. SEO can also give you, looking at how you optimize for voice search. Current stats I've read said that 40% of searches are online with people saying hello, and they talk to their phone. If I say it right now, she's going to answer, so I'm not going to say it. But if I would talk to my phone with one of those words that you use to talk to your phone, it will come back and give you an answer. And lots of those are searches. And so how do you optimize for that? AI can give you all sorts of tips and things. But finally, and I think most primarily, at least for us, we still use SEMrush. I thought for a minute it might be obsolete, hardly at all. SEMrush is a masterful tool that has terabytes of keyword data in a master database that it uses to answer all of the questions. But now with AI assistants built into SEMrush, these are faster and better than they ever were before. So they are incorporating AI. You can ask it more complex questions, get better answers. It can help you with readability. It can also, through AI, help you prioritize what things you should be working on first. I'm sorry, it's just one of many tools that are out there. It happens to be one of the primary tools that we use. We have several others. Give you better insights faster than it could before, and it can analyze how your brand is portrayed across all the various search platforms. So how are we showing up on Gemini? How are we showing up on ChatGPT? These are all things that can be done. Here's a little look at the dashboard for SEMrush. This is what our practitioners here at Northwoods work on. Alex and Ed, a couple others that spend a lot of time doing and working inside of here. You become master of this tool. This is a masterful tool, and it has now been augmented with all sorts of AI assistants that we're taking advantage of. You too can do this. You always could, but this is where the hard work is done. And frankly, where there's some expertise is needed, how to read this and understand all the data that's going on the screen. So where I was worried about all of our people are going to be put out of jobs, I'm more encouraged now to say, yeah, no, I think there's still a lot of work for us to do for people that don't have the time, expertise, or the aptitude to be able to master tools like this. All right. AI-assisted content generation, another way where AI can absolutely help your website. Let's talk about our favorite tools. Here they are, actually. I just took a screenshot of them, but it captured all of them. Apple Intelligence is not there. It's coming along. We do use Gemini. We use ChatGPT, OpenAPI, this product. I actually installed on my iPhone and have found it to be very, very useful, doing all sorts of things that Siri cannot, far better. But Meta AI on my iPhone cannot access my calendar nor my email, and it can't do anything that's local to my phone, but it can reach out far better than Siri in answering questions about the rest of the universe, which is really interesting. I'm hoping Apple catches up. I use Grok, Perplexity. Claude we use internally for coding. It does a wonderful job. There's other tools, but these are some of our favorites inside there. So I asked ChatGPT to write me some content for today, and it came up with this, a limerick. There once was a webinar host whose AI skills he often would boast. GEO is a breeze, he'd shout with such ease, but his site crashed, oh, what a roast. So thank you, Chat. It's good at that. Writing content. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. But one of the primary things I use ChatGPT for, and actually a number of other tools, is for data cleansing. We can take a very, very large database and with a series of well-structured prompts, clean up, find bad data, find gaps in the data, find missing data. We can also validate data, take addresses and geocode them, enriching and enhancing linked information, formatting tag imports and taxonomy imports from general descriptions, pulling out the tags, being able to audit, running it through multiple passes, reviewing it, and then finally transforming that data if we need to take a spreadsheet and turn it into a JSON file or an XML file. Those are things that we can do, convert it from one format to another. These are all things that AI is very, very good at. And one of the things that many corporations, many manufacturing sites, even healthcare sites have problems with messy data. It's kind of it's been collected over years by various people, various departments, and it's not in good shape. And AI can assist masterfully, again, in the hands of a competent software engineer. What would have taken them months can now be done in weeks or days in some cases. You still need the expertise to know what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, and what the steps are. If you were doing it manually, you can just do it a lot faster. So AI data cleanup is really good. Here's an eyeful. Let's just go across the top over here. The details are down below. So we can assess the quality of the content on your website. So does it need revision or it's unacceptable and do not use? You can give it a score. We can also look at how accurate is it? Go and fact check the information. Is it clear and coherently written? Does it flow logically? LLMs are really good at this. So take your content, run it through an LLM. I'm not saying just use it verbatim. We never do. All the stuff I wrote, even that limerick before, I rewrote that limerick a little bit. So take and use this to see how clear is this? What suggestions would you make? I've been using it for proofreading. It does as good a job as a couple of other people who've been proofreading for me for years. It does as good a job at finding stuff. Is it relevant to the mission? Give it the description of what you'd like to have it accomplish. Be able to say, there's a purpose of our website. Is this content relevant to that? Is it consistent in tone and style? Do you want to change the tone a little bit? All of these things are things that outside of your website, but you're going to feed this content back into your website. Take it, paste it in there, paste it into the LLM, pick your favorite one, try a different one. At some point in time, you're going to settle into whether you like Gemini or Grok or ChatGPT. At some point in time, you're going to run out of tokens and you're going to need to pay the $20 to or more per month for your ability to interact with that. But these are where we can really get some productivity enhancements. Finally, one of the things that has intrigued me, and this is in the realm of vibe programming again, is AI course creation, where you can feed it a whole bunch of content, give it a whole bunch of descriptions. This is an agent that's going to do some vibe programming behind the scenes to be able to pull together content in a structured way that walks you through. I think in my experience with these online courses generated by AI, again, they're going to be kind of okay. You're going to probably want the ability to modify a lot to really tune it up. I don't think anybody's going to take this stuff verbatim as it spits it out, but it's a good head start. It might give you a great structure. Again, vibe programming for prototyping, for doing proof of concepts. You could get a course created over here, get a good sense, and then work on improving it and figuring out where the limits of these agents are in working with a different agent. So I have not used any of these personally yet, but I'm intrigued by them. So it's on my list of things to check out. Okay, finally, AI market research. What can you do to go there? So one of the things that we've done internally is created a master prompts. Here's a little template for a master prompt that sets up personas for what you would like a focus group to consist of. So you give it a set of things. You're going to give it input for what product or service are you going to be buying. So I want to create personas that are going to buy websites from Northwoods. They are going to be in the healthcare and financial and manufacturing industries. They are going to be anywhere in the United States. They are in mid-tier pricing and high-tier pricing. Frankly, we'll work with anybody, but let's pretend mid-tier for now. Key benefit solution, what value pain point does this solve? So answering it, this is going to help them get their websites up faster. It's going to help people that don't have a dedicated marketing person. So anyways, we answer all these questions and you write a long, pages long sometimes, master prompt that you're going to feed to the LLM and save it. Then out of that comes Emily, who's a CMO, and this is her persona. You have Daniel, he's the VP of marketing. Here's your focus group. Now we ask the focus group questions and we ask them, hey, why should I buy a website from North? What are the problems with the website? And here's what they said. This is the problem, 20% over there. And then you work with this with, again, different LLM and you find out what sort of information seems to resonate. We are in the process of these online marketing-driven, AI-generated marketing personas, focus groups, against real data to see how close they are. I'm not sure how successful our validation efforts are going to be. We're going to try anyways to say, kind of compare and contrast real people with fake people, AI people, to see what we get out of there. But as you know, with all focus groups, every time you have one, you get different information. And it's not until you talk to 1,000 people where you kind of get the general trends. Take it for what you will. All right. Couple quick thoughts on vibe coding, which I've mentioned a couple times, and I just want to introduce the concept of RAG, which is another one of the programming concepts that's important here at Northwoods. Vibe coding is the ability to generate code, generate applications, websites, bots, create apps, create an agent. The Google Cloud Agent Builder, they give you a whole bunch of different prototypes and templates. They ask you a bunch of questions. Where's your data fed in? And when it's going to done, it's going to spit out a set of code that now lives in the Google Cloud that runs as an agent. Great for proof of concept. My experience in working with these, and again, I haven't been doing this for too long, but the vibe coding stuff is, the code is good. It's a great way to test a concept, show it to your boss. Say, hey, what happens if we build something like this? I would caution you again strongly to say, I don't know that I would deploy any of these things live real time without some great trepidation. Not ready for prime time. Does a great job. And I think the purpose of vibe coding for now, in the future, and for a while, is going to be prototype, proof of concept, get a rough idea, give you some clues, help you, give you a head start. These are great uses for vibe coding. RAG. RAG is a programming term called retrieval augmentation generation. Basically, it means we're going to take the LLM and we're going to plug it into external data sources that we have control over to augment, to help supplement the data that the LLM has. LLM does not have access to all the internal documentation at Northwoods. We have a very large repository of internal knowledge-based type articles, et cetera. LLMs can't see that. We don't give it access to it. We could turn an LLM loose on that, or we could work in context with an existing LLM and say, with some security constraints, I want you to ingest this data that we have as an augmenting the information you have so you know more than you knew before. So it improves the accuracy of results. It enhances the relevance of the information. Certainly, it's going to make it more effective. And rather than the ability for that LLM to be fully trained on everything that you have over there, it eliminates the need for expensive retraining the LLM to learn all of your stuff. So it just pulls it in as it's needed, and it's a supplemental little adjunct inside there. So that's RAG. That's something that we as programmers work on. And when you're building agents that are going to be effective, they're going to be using RAG for accessing data and for working in conjunction. So this is where, in the realm of AI, again, I had a panic that all my programmers were going to be out of work, and I had that panic. And now I'm saying, no, there is tons of work for competent programmers who are good at this. And it's front-end developers, knowledge base, every place down the whole stack of what you need for a website. You're going to need expertise and these sorts of things. And this is only going to get more complex. So what are the next steps? One little final tip before I turn it back over to Jim is we did an internal survey of what tools people were using internally at Northwoods and what version of the tool they were using, how much they were spending, if anything, and then just a little narrative. And I got all sorts of really excellent information. Again, back all to that letter from the CEO of Fiverr, who said, hey, everybody, AI is coming for your jobs. Well, it is. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but it's going to change your job. And so we want everybody at Northwoods to be paying it very close attention and working with and experimenting with all these different AI tools that are out there. We did a little survey, and this is what we have. So I would encourage you to do the same thing. You can copy this template if you want, change it as you need, but there's a little Google sheet sent out, a Google thing. Hey, everybody, fill this in. Tell us what you're doing. Great information. All right. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you much, Patrick. We did get some questions when folks registered ahead of time, and you actually just addressed 2 out of the 3.
All right.
So in the interest of time, I'm going to pose the other question that we got, and that is simply where to start.
Where to start? Well, I think the next step is do that survey. Find out what people are doing inside your organization. Number 2, have a discussion with your marketing team. Do we have the ability to integrate a chatbot or some variation of a chatbot that would make our information more accessible, a better user experience on our website? Probably the number one way that a website could be improved if you put the time and energy into doing that. The evolution up there and having that discussion is, with that same team, your internal focus group is, have that discussion. What are you seeing our competitors doing? What features do you see out there on websites that we could be implementing? Second question, and it's a changing topic with the same internal focus group. Where are we struggling to write content? Where are we not getting enough blogs out there? Where do we not have enough data? Where do we have bad taxonomy or bad customer experience on our website? Let's focus on those and ask Northwoods, frankly, where could we improve each of these things? We have the ability to come in, and I think actually you're going to mention this, Jim, the program we're offering this summer, to come in and kind of we will do an assessment, a survey of the things that you have, figure out where you're at and where the opportunities might be. I don't know, any other questions come in? Otherwise, I'll turn it back on, and I think you're going to segue into that same topic.
Yeah, no, that was the last question. In the interest of time, I am going to go ahead and continue and conclude. Patrick just mentioned, we are conducting 5 AI assessments this summer. We have room for 3 more for companies to take advantage of this assessment. If you're interested in learning more about this, please visit nwsdigital.com/dmconsult and select AI assessment from the drop-down menu in the form at the bottom of the page. We will reach out to discuss how this AI assessment would work for your organization. Also, please join us on Thursday, July 17th, as we present From SEO to GEO. Position your brand for success in the age of AI-powered search. As always, all webinars are complimentary and begin at 10 a.m. Central Time. You can learn more and register at Northwoods.com. And if you're looking for information on a specific topic or AI topic, or just want to stay up to date on the latest trends and developments in the constantly changing world of digital, check out our blog, recorded webinars, our YouTube channel, and our Around the Campfire podcast, featuring casual conversations with our experts on all things digital. Again, there's a lot of content up there recently in the last 6 months on AI, so be sure to check all of that out. Lastly, if you'd like to learn more about Northwoods and the many services we offer, from website design and development to custom software and digital marketing to digital advertising and marketing strategy, visit us at nwsdigital.com to explore our services details, read client stories, and much, much more. After the webinar window closes, there's a short survey. It will be available, and we greatly appreciate if you could share your feedback on how we did this morning. So that concludes our webinar. I'd like to thank Patrick and each of you for joining us this morning. We look forward to seeing you again at our next webinar, and until then, have a great day and a great rest of your week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.